Going live in 3, 2, 1.
They will no longer learn the art of war. Nations will no longer rise up against each other. Isaiah's prophecy. Humanity is waiting for Isaiah's prophecy of turning swords into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks to be fulfilled. Cry out this call for peace as loud as you can, young people. This is your destiny. Let's use the many resources spent on arms for other needs, health, hygiene, food, the fight against poverty, care for the environment, for creation. Let's give the world to come, maybe a world that's less filled with money and more filled with humanity. We want to work towards disarmament. We young people working for Economia Disarmata in the Focolare movement. We have organized environmental training, meetings, and information to be able to work together. We'll work with the economy of Francesco to create a different type of economy. Let's look around us and see what we can do. What can I do to build peace here and now? Can I be the change that I want to see to respond to injustice in the world? There are 3 million Italians unable to work at the moment due to the coronavirus. These include some food industries and pharmaceutical industries, but the war and weapons are ongoing. Businesses producing arms are not essential and they should be closed. We should consider what are the strategic things that are actually needed in our country. A group called the Disarmament Network and Economia work together. People need to invest in better technologies and in activities which are strategic concerning genuine security and one that invests in public health and in the common good, and to create employment and wealth. Good afternoon. Today's meeting is called Let's Oppose an Economy That Kills, Stories of Commitment to Peace. We're in the United World Week, an annual event launched by Chiara Lubich in 1995. The week wants to tell stories about actions and projects for peace that are a step towards a world that is one family. In 1995, on that occasion, Pope John Paul II encouraged young people to spread the truth with love. And reject those who tell you truths which are based on violence, who presume that you believe truth based on violence or lies. There are many things underlying our economic situation which are very questionable theories, and they presume the violation of human rights, for example. And Pope Francis has said it's a type of economic life that kills. Today's meeting is those to look at more intense at this economy that kills. We in the Focolare have been committed on this front for many years, and our commitment starts with the very existence of the Focolare movement, because our founders, Eugenio Giordani with Chiara Lubich, were precursors in this commitment to peace. Giordani was a member of parliament, very first one to propose a law accepting conscientious objection. And I recommend you read this book because although the title isn't terribly clear, the useless of war, but it's clear that war is not something useful. In the book, Giordani says that weapons should not be produced. We feel that we're committed in the first person also as a movement so that this economy, this type of economy that kills can change because it kills progress. So we started to be more actively engaged in recent years. And since the last assembly of the Popular movement in 2014, where there was a motion committing the movement of the whole world to follow path of peace, entering into this issue not with a simple declaration of intent or little songs about peace, but going to see what's actually happening, what the Italian government is doing, what the sorry, I beg your pardon, what the assembly of the whole movement in the world decided that the state branches should do in order to build peace. So we wanted therefore to launch this project, which we wanted to be a benchmark, so that people should move money out of banks which support production to banks, ethical banks which don't do this. The motion, which was approved unanimously at that meeting, made us decide to go much more in depth and encourage young people to do the same. So we founded a study group that you might have heard tell of during the United World Week, and on the 1st of May we've often spoken about it, and it's called Disarmed Economy, and it's a study group that goes into depth with these themes. First of all, we do, and we have studied exactly how to stop this machine that because there's a whole machinery engaged in the weapons production. And people need to work, people need to have work. So together with Pope Francis, we want to defeat this hypocrisy so that we no longer have arms production in our country or anywhere. So we appealed then for the application of Law 185, which was passed in 1990, which certainly at least limited the production of weapons and the sale of weapons to countries that are actually in conflict with any other country. Obviously, it's a tiny step, but it really was a first step that we have managed to achieve, although unfortunately it wasn't respected, it wasn't applied. They thought of us as usual kind of idealists, but so there was this great expert politician smiling down on us, and it seemed as if we were young people just wanting to do something good. But the next day, she came over on a magazine called Explain the Motives for this cry of suffering and this protest against weapons manufacture. So we took on board this desire that young people have. Yes, here in Italy, we have a factory that produces bombs that are used in the war in Yemen. Yes, and other weapons which are actually forbidden by international law. So the fin mechanic, which is one of our best industries, should be transformed into other types of manufacture. We don't agree with this weapons production. There's a committee in Iglesias Sardinia, we wanted to support a seize motion for weapons not to be sold to conflict countries in conflict. The last thing I'd like to say, there were other things, one of the best things that we're doing is that during this work in schools that we've done, another idea concerning society in the world. In these few days, another position has been given to the Ministry of Defence, who said that with our defence spending, we've also helped to set up a field hospital for the COVID-19 emergency. How can you say that this isn't hypocrisy? How can you not understand that that is hypocrisy? If we didn't have the bombs, you wouldn't have the hospital. Do we need weapons to beat the virus? We laughed really hearing this. The first reaction that some countries had when the virus arrived was to go and buy weapons. We have spoken to politicians about the industries in Italy. We've got nuclear weapons on our soil and a law on the export of arms. The countries in conflict isn't being respected. These issues show the dimensions of the problem, which is massive. We need a commitment that's radical and serious. And now, today, we're going to go and talk to people who have committed themselves very seriously. The first among these is Giorgio. He's from Sardinia. He works there, agreeing with his wife. He refused to work in the weapons factory. It produces bombs going to Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, he's not able to be with us today, but we're sharing his story through a video. I was contacted by the company to work there, and I said, no, we didn't want to be in a situation where a child says, Daddy, what do you do at work? And Daddy would say, I make bombs. We couldn't face that. I've got four children, a boy. From December 2016, I've been working on looking for a job. I was very grateful that one of my former colleagues told me about the job. But then when he told me the company that he was working for, I refused because this is not just possible to work in a factory building weapons. I shared this in the family with my children, my wife, and they were all fully in agreement to support me. The eldest, Julia, said that I would have done what was right. She told her friends, and they too said it was a good choice. I would never go to a factory that made bombs that go to kill innocent people. I don't know how he could even sleep at night if he did. The opportunity to look at and would have helped a great deal financially, but it would undermine our peace and our spirituality. We might do some other work, we try to go ahead with other things. I certainly don't compare dramatic employment situation in the area where many lost jobs and it's my choice was something natural and something simple. I didn't make it exceptional. We were grateful. We don't want to be part of something that builds something that's harmful to others. Immediately after this story, Arnaldo and Cinzia are with us. They are from the committee proposing the conversion of the RWM factory. Welcome to United World Week. And after taking a stand in 2017 and demonstrating in the center of the city, two students committed themselves to a project for the reconversion of the factory. We started, as has been said, in 2017 with this committee, but we wanted to express our ideals. And this was a long time ago when we made this commitment to peace when I was already 14 years old. At the time when this committee began for the reconversion of the factory, we met people who we already knew and who already had this long-standing commitment to peace. So this if we were certain that these bombs were being sold to Lebanon. We grew up with the idea and the sense of universal family, universal brotherhood and sisterhood, and this distance from my life ideals was too much, and so we felt that we could all work together. We didn't want to do jobs that were to do with what to do with and life. At the end of a run for unity, as was said before, we went out into the squares for this demonstration. We formed a committee. Seeing all the people who came to the demonstration, we saw how many people supported our cause. People who have been committed to working for peace for many, many years. There were people also of different cultures. But when we decided to meet next day, they all came and we tried to say, let's go ahead together. Because people have been campaigning in different groups, each of different groups and different organizations. But all these groups and organizations came together to work together to play around so that we could have concerned action. And this openness, this pluralism among us all. And it was interesting and good to see that we had reference points as Gino Giordani and Chiara Lubit, but they also had other teachers, other leaders who reached the same conclusion. We can't allow our country to be an accomplice in war. How do people view your commitment and the work you're doing? The answer is what to do with what Cynthia was saying, in the sense that many of the people in the committee knew us already, as she was saying, since we were teenagers. Others joined us on that occasion for the Run for Unity. So we experienced a sense of shared belonging, belonging to one great movement for peace, which unites people of all religions and none. So together with the fact that we were well known in that area, enabled us to do more. Certainly there was opposition because our economy, local economy, is so depressed that for many people it's really tough to think of, even consider the future without this one large source of employment. People don't want sort of to live on social security. They want to work, they want to have a guaranteed income, and all these things. So so yes, even at the factory itself, there aren't many people going to have a guaranteed full-time job, because that's why over the years the people employed in the last 6 years has increased, but it's never been more than 300, and only 100 of these people work time in and ongoing jobs in the factory. So in actual fact, even the factory itself doesn't offer stable or full development for the local people. We wanted people to be more aware of the actual situation on the ground. The owners of the factory are not concerned. Don't think anything about the people in the area where their factories are placed. It's a type of everything is done in relationship to the profits that can be gained from the business, and not the social situation in which these factories are placed. And the fact that there's moral damage to be done to the place in which these people work. And then at the physical level, these products actually destroy human lives and land areas with the products that produced in the factory. So the local council in Ecclesias, where the factory wanted to take action. And as was said before, we didn't want to sell bombs to Saudi Arabia to drop on Yemen. And Cynthia and the committee were in touch with every local councillor. We tried to have appointments with them to talk this over, and also to reach their heart, to touch their soul and their moral sentiments. And this effort that we put into the personal relationship with them and these personal conversations really did bear fruit. Unexpectedly, however, after 2 sittings, that the council voted against having the factory there and wanting this town to be a town of peace. And to try to train people to be more aware about what is happening. The other the other networks in Italy working for peace were watching all of this and amazed to see what was happening, and seeing that little by little we were working towards a lessening of this production or sale of arms. Obviously still hasn't yet stopped, but this stop on export for 18 months is already a significant achievement. And it's never happened before to this factory. You weren't only saying stop and close the factory, you had a positive proposal, didn't you? You can't possibly think of shutting down employment without converting the factory and creating jobs. That's not possible. Therefore, we wanted to promote an alternative economy, activities in the area, creating jobs in the area, not necessarily with the people who are working at the RWM, but maybe them too, and exclude them, but to develop other sources of income and jobs, job creation. To have an alternative way ahead for Italy and the world. So could you introduce yourself? I'm Stefano, I'm Arnaldo's son. I'm studying communications, and I was asked to take part in this project. I've always been very happy about the work the committee was doing, although I didn't take an active part in it. But in the project, on the project about the factory conversion, I was very interested. And so I wanted to be available to help. My name is Leonora. I too come from Cagliari. I'm studying languages. I'm studying translation. First of all, I felt very much outside of this. I was surprised to be asked to be involved, but I do really believe that there can be an alternative and that this is important to develop alternative employment. The two objectives are, first, to create a consortium. We don't know exactly what it will be juridically. A group of local businesses who get together to work out some possible level of sustainability in the local economy and to find outlets for products, local products. We'd like this city to be free from war and promoting peace, and that people would go for buying these products because they would know that nothing produced in that place would be used for war. So rather than going against the factory or the business, we wanted to focus on what was actually around us, the small, middle-sized businesses near the factory who could perhaps grow. The second objective was to create an online shop to sell all the local products. After what Stefano said, we're creating a list of Sardinian businesses, especially in that town, which could develop, which have the ethical basis, and who might share a quality hallmark which could be against war. We've done research into people who might be want to be part of this network. And we've also found some people to promote this network, the people promoting the businesses in the network, seeing what we can offer through our commitment to the project. We want to give the project support from different points of view, one of which is the parceling up and sending out of products. We wanted to grow the contact that Sardinia has with other countries in order to sell its products. So now we're going to go over to Genoa, who's going to tell us his experience with his colleagues as conscientious of, in terms of conscientious objection and a no to war. So let's hear from him. Hello, everyone. As people who work in the port in May last year, we came to know from the port people working in Le Havre that the port workers in Le Havre refused to load weapons onto ships that were destined to Saudi Arabia. When we heard this, we too wanted to take action against this company called Bari from Saudi Arabia. These were generators destined for the civil guard. These generators are used to for drones, combat drones, to bomb the Yemeni people. So we found out these generators were used for this kind of weaponry through the boarding cards that were accompanying the company and the port authorities. It was said double use, twofold use. And when we saw this embarkation documents, we said, but what are these? Are just electricity generators. They should be there to help people. Why do they have this double use? So we did some research into what this might mean and what that actually meant. And then thanks to the port workers and the people who were supposed to load these generators, and because of the research done, and this ticket. Sorry if I've been a bit, it might have been a bit confusing, but can you see what I'm saying? That we were able to find out, we were able to take action. Thanks to these information boxes, we were able to identify the true use to which these generators were destined. And in February this year, together with people in civil society, support workers, children, I'd like to remind you that in February this year, the dead among the children, the people in Yemen was 85,000 dead. And these drones have been used to increase this death toll. So we try events with other associations and politicians, all the committees against war, the pacifist people, military people. So first of all, to shine a light on this weapons trade in the port of Genoa. So we wanted to oppose this bloody war. It was one of our slogans to understand one another. But really, we were against the production of weapons. We said that what we said to ourselves was that war starts here. If the weapons are being built here, then war would of course start here. It could be that a bomb built there or the drones, but everything starts here in the factory behind me or in the port behind me, in the containers that you can see. There are missiles. There's a lot of things here might well be popular hardware, but what we want to do is to stop this war machinery already here from the port. On that occasion, we were successful also because there was a very great solidarity. Great solidarity also give an example like the emergency situation with Médecins Sans Frontières and other groups who really gave massive support to the events that we organized. So we proclaimed a day of opposition to block the work on the ship. We do not want to be accomplices, and we don't soil our hands with blood through our work. So we managed. I am also a trade union representative, and thanks to the union in that case, we managed to organize right where to stop the arrival of that particular ship. On that occasion, it was a day really for life, and because we managed to stop the ship even before it actually docked, because it comes to it comes to pickup weapon, so that it actually wasn't able to dock at all. And then we also sent it out of the port, and we sent it away from Italian waters. So they went to a port in Anda, to the military port. I think really we managed to highlight the problem of weapons manufacture and export. I've spoken about the Bari company, but there are other businesses I won't mention now, but part of their capital, part of their entry income comes from weapon sales. We would like there to be a reconversion of these weapons factories. Above all, that in the civil logistics there shouldn't be the stockpiling of weapons. We move goods and commodities of all kinds. We talk about food, medicines, equipment for factories. We're taking ahead of society. What we don't want, as I said before, we don't want to use our strength, our physical strength, to increase the market of war. We don't want to dirty our hands with blood. of other people for the commercial interests of those manufacturing weapons and fueling the wars throughout the world. We're not interested. This is a question of interest. It's a moral issue. It's all. We don't want to move goods that go to kill other people. Thank you for all you've told us and the commitment that you have there in the port in Genoa, and the very close link that there is between what was happening in other countries. I want to ask, you spoke about the group action and therefore media visibility. According to you, did this opposition that you arranged manage to bring about change effectively in the world around you, in the port of the city of Genoa? What reaction did your family have, for example, the people you know? First of all, there was great sort of solidarity on the part of the citizens of Genoa and the people who work in the port. Almost every family has a family member who works in the port. Many people have refused to load weapons, and so the solidarity was really powerful. Certainly, on other occasions too, Genoa has proved itself to be against war. For example, 40 years ago, in the port of Genoa, a ship was stopped that was on its way to the war in Vietnam, and quite a lot of lorries were banned that were going to be used in the war in Vietnam. And another historical period, I say we blocked, blame that on something historical, but the port staff blocked a ship directed towards a famous South American dictatorship. So that here there's a great sense of international solidarity towards oppressed peoples. So there is this history behind us which accompanies us, which urges us on, which makes us feel strong. We were able to organize a strike. We were able to do different activities and meetings, and people who used to work in the port supported us, and people who are pensioners now. So on that occasion there were the two ships that we managed to block. However, the painful point about it was that I don't like is, as I said before, is that while there are political interests in this, in the electoral campaigns, when there's an electoral campaign, people are very sensitive to, things change in electoral campaigns. But instead, when there's no political interest in supporting or not supporting this issue, with people support. First of all, where is the problem that concerns all of us? It's not the passing thing. Over 20 years that we're trying to combat this. There are, I don't know how many there are, but there are about 56 going on in the world already. So if we don't take a step, if we don't take one step forward as citizens, and we who are the port workers, if each of us doesn't do our part, if each of us does do our part, we can take a step forward towards blocking this building up of weapons and use of weapons. There are conscientious objectors in the army too. So we are just a little grain of sand within this machinery of death that wants to slow it down. So we need thousands of grains of sand into the machinery. Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. We're called to personal responsibility and to follow our consciences and to reflect together to see how each one of us can start in order to what each one of us can do to stop further development of war and weapons. We also wanted to understand and open up the conversation, looking at Italy. There's the Myriad Institute in Rome, which research themes like disarmament, security, and human rights. And Gabriele is going to help us understand with some data what kind of resources Italy wastes in the production of weapons. We've spoken about Sardinia, but there are other examples. Yes, in recent days, some data has been published concerning global spending on weapons. So the 1,917 billion euros spent in 2019. Italy is the 12th in the ranking of all these countries. It spent 26 billion, almost $27 billion. So I've seen that this campaign against military spending is a worldwide effort. And in particular, we know that the United Nations spells 2 billion, and the World Health Organization spends billion, UNICEF 6 billion, and the refugee organization 7.5 billion. And so in compared with disarmament, so only 15, disarmament only 15 million. So if you think that it's spent 26 billion, we could perhaps ask ourselves questions. So does it make any change if we spend a little bit less? We're now during a pandemic in which all kinds of other things are needed. We just wanted to say that here in Italy, we know the situation in Sardinia, but we have 200 factories making arms and weaponry, and only one factory that produces ventilators. There seems to be more than one state in conflict that they've sold weapons to. So the death concerning last year in 2019, we sent 50 missiles to and a lot of other weapons are used in the Arab Emirates. We also sold radar, controlling missiles, and so there's part of the Bahrain is part of the coalition bombing Yemen. As I said before, Saudi Arabia and Qatar have placed orders, but they haven't been sent because on the news broadcast and in international papers, the orders were suspended by the government. Thank you. These data are really concerning. We cannot be indifferent. And the best way to consider them is to look very seriously and go beyond the superficial indignation that they cause, and understand that causes and unmask hypocrisy which uses our consciences and makes us unable to react to an economy like this, which doesn't put people in the first place, people and the integral development of people. We have to react against an economy that promises growth and promises work, but then produces violence and death. These are not easy. There are not easy solutions. Experiences we've heard tell us that at the basis of it, we need a conscience that's able to reject violence. And the stories that we've heard from Giuseppe and George are examples from this point of view, and help us to feed our conscience and help us to reject violence and war in a very radical way. Just as Gino Giordani said, it's a moral problem, first of all. Today, evil is born in the heart of the human person. So it's not enough we need to remove the danger of war. We need to remove the spirit of aggression, exploitation, and hegemony, power over others that war thrives on. So these thoughts from Jesus Giorgiani are taken from his book, The Uselessness of War, that Alfredo showed us at the beginning of this meeting. The question of conscience has been spoken about to all of us also in the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si on the environment, which tells us we should go and find out information about conflict. We might just have a personal curiosity, or indeed our conscience might urge us to close our eyes in front of the violence that exists in the world and only look at reality from a very partial point of view. But to have a very well-formed conscience makes us able to look at reality carefully and clearly, and is the first step which helps us to understand this phenomenon and study them in an effort to build peace effectively. So with this in mind, we'll listen to Carlo Cefaloni from Città Nuova. I wanted to ask you, first of all, how did this group of disarmed economy begin? And how did you, as one of the editors of Città Nuova, what was the role of this magazine concerning the disarmed economy? The disarmed economy is a working group for reflection and action that is promoted, organized by the Popolare Movement in Italy. And the concrete choice that was made by the movement was to enter deeply into the reality of things, not with generic affirmations about peace, but to enter into the strategic choices concerning the economy and finance of the country. Otherwise, you just stay on the surface preaching, as said. So we need an influence on consciences. The fact of having an awareness of the numbers, of having an international overview, can also be best. Because today we find ourselves in front of a very painful awareness of not being able to have any effect in the world on these international scenarios. And so we find we can't change the direction of travel. And now we're in the lockdown of the pandemic. So on the one hand, we need to invest in health care and the World Health Organization has 2 billion and we have a military expenditure of 2,000 billion. So we're living in a fundamental paradox when we accept nonsense. So entering into society means that we need to find out where the settings for resistance are located and obviously as an action can be taken like to which visibility must be given in Città Nuova magazine, which is and must be a free tool to the extent to which it manages and is faithful to its own capacity to build up networks and give an overview of the city today, but which also makes an answer to conflict And to say we can build a different world, we can have a different society, but it is possible to respond, not to be indifferent. The fact that there's a weapons factory cannot leave me indifferent. I was always in my Sardinian friends who we've often quoted into over. So, yes, it's you just say people cannot be yes, we can't be indifferent as it comes to the place. So we're not it's as though we were saying, if I don't do something, if I don't solve drugs, then it won't be solved. But we need to, if I don't do it, other people will do. We might think all of these things, but it's still possible to say that I can do something to bring about change from different points of view. So if you manage to give more space to these topics in a magazine, and then to someone who becomes a tool, able to argue the case and keep focusing on the issue. If people don't want to understand the root of exploitation, the root of violence, we have to understand them in order to turn back from it all. So you have to understand if you understand that thing, you can't act on you is completely powerless. And so therefore you have to go away but on the other hand, we mustn't wonder that we have millions of views of many stupid things, banal things, and we need to things that are not important. We need to have a progressive growth of consciousness, to be able to take action. We need to be able to trust ourselves and hope in the capacity, human capacity, to show conscious and give adequate answers. So it's not a negative judgment. It's not that we have weapons destruction and therefore we are simply given to the self-destruction. No, we say there's another way of being in the world. It's possible to oppose an economy that kills, and it's only the observation, and it's the so a worker who, together with his colleagues, managed to object to anti-personnel lines, managed to do something in Italy. There was a contemporary international movement to the abolition of anti-personnel lines. The fact that there were workers who made this choice, who led to the change in their factory, it's something very real. So something can be achieved by analysing the reality and enabling it to change practically. So disarmed. The kind of Focolare movement and its carriers and commit seeking for peace of the Focolare movement and reality, which already shows the capacity to make radical appeal to the gospel theory. It's not an ideal situation, but it goes directly on personal choices that each one of us make. The capacity to look at other people as our brothers and sisters, to build up with them a whole world. So in this way, the movement is able to go beyond borders of culture, of ideas and belonging, religious belonging, because it's capacity to understand together with others that the other person is the pathway to reach a more just world, more human world. And therefore, as such, we have many little achievements, achieve things, organizations, national organizations. We have what we call the economy community. As the choice of each one of us to be able to give of ourselves for what is good. I refer always to Titanova, the fact that Giordani was the director of Titanova for many years, and his life was not only his choice to go against war, but he also knew how to argue and to write, speak. And so, in many ways, he also did this in his life in Parliament and all that happened there. So this is personal testimony of people who get engaged to combat these contradictions towards life, to give an answer of a sense of family in the world. So these are methods in which we try to have an influence, give an answer through our magazine. When in 2015 this choice was made to commit to this disarmed economy, we made an inquiry, but already in 2011, Gunwalder, as a 360-degree information magazine, also is supported by its subscribers, and so this subscribers already gave us the opposition to war, and already in 2011, this public subscribed to our magazine was against the war in Lebanon. Today, the things that are going on in our is that there are people in detention, and refugee camps are being bombed. We're living in front of a disaster in 2011 already. We spoke against this. So, but we have to take a stand to say the ports without being capacity to take a stand. An answer to the gospel is in vain. We have to live the gospel. So let's go now to Assisi. We're going around Italy, and we're going to talk about the Assisi motion that we mentioned before. So you are a councillor in the local authority in Assisi, and you represent your city. You stood on a civic list to support the mayoress, and then you got involved in the so-called motion of Assisi, and we'd like you to tell us more about this. Hello, everyone. As Maria Jara said, I never thought of getting into politics. I'm not even somebody very highly qualified for politics, but I have the conscience of a citizen and the perception of what citizenship actually asks you to do. And you see things and you want to bring values. And so this is the driving force that makes me go on. This administration work in the local authority began in 2016. I had some opportunity. I had the opportunity to show the determined way values that I feel that I can repeat today. Also, I'm aware of, and that we were working for in 2017, very shortly after my election to the council. The Focolare movement was given the prize Cities of Fraternity in Assisi. And of course, given that the motivation was because Assisi has the vocation, this aspect of fraternity, where 600 or 800 years ago, Saint Francis spoke about fraternity. In forming this group, which I represent, it's one of the biggest representative groups of monasticism worldwide. From then on, after a few months, it became possible to renew as a council the treasury. And I had a bit of problems with some of the people in the council to include in one of the public processes to renew the treasury, a kind of prize which was very important. Yes, or kind of conditions that we shouldn't use banks. Council shouldn't use banks which have any kind of investment in weaponry. Values can be declined in many different ways, but values have to become concrete, building up the city from beneath. The Assisi motion began because on the 14th of October 2017, somebody called Francis, in the blessing of Saint Francis, in the presence of I don't know if it was Pope Francis, but anyway, somebody giving the blessing of Francis in front of the Prime Minister Gentiloni, mentioned a particular banner: "Stop hypocrisy, stop selling arms now." Now, considering the process in the next step, January 2018, we had a meeting, the 27th of January, had a memory for the Shoah, the Holocaust. In reality, it was organized. An interesting meeting came about, which also discussed stopping weapons manufacture and sale. And this led to a meeting and a letter to President Mattarella, the president of Italy, asking him to stop the sale of arms to Yemen. The sale of arms, yes, for the war in Yemen. 17th of October 2018, Rome. Carlo Cipollone and I had a meeting with the mayor. There were different organizations creating this Assisi motion. And we discussed the fact that if the politics didn't give an answer, perhaps we should start from the people, from the city. In reality, this was actually like the leaven that generated this motion, because I gave documentation to Carlo. He then wrote a fundamental text on which we further worked. Then we gave it to local councils. And then, because in the CC always has a vocation of a city of peace, we had Article 11 of the Constitution, in which Italy rejects war. And so this article in the Constitution was very particular to the city of Assisi. I hadn't understood the impact that would have the fact that Assisi was so significant, that there would be such an avalanche of adherence to this motion. So we didn't do a great deal in practice to bring it about. It became about, and our part, we did all our part. Also because I don't. Also because we know that one of the council is interested in supporting the arms trade. Sorry, one of the yes, I don't know, in effect was one of the greatest. Yes, so this local councillor was against the arms trade too, and against the factory in his city. What we're trying to do at the moment is to help people, also those with the virus. The councillor, I had a debate with this councillor who knew the problem very well. We were talking about the economic aspect, and I debated with this councillor about this. The focus was on the fact that it hadn't got to be a motion to stop and towards we mustn't risk all the production of weapons. So there was a big debate about this. We were trying to get unanimity on this motion. So immediately many different large cities in Italy adhered to the motion. They wanted the text, they wanted all the information possible in order to promote it. In the space of a few months, 20 cities adhered to the motion. But obviously the main city of all is the capital city of Rome. There was a politician from the southern part of Rome, Aur, and he brought the motion not only to the council, but also to parliament. Carlo, I want to thank you very much for this overview of the work that you've been doing for the motion that is the outcome of a long journey. It wasn't something that was just a demonstration, but it was something that went through a whole process of being generated, and that I really wanted to ask a question. So then you can carry on as you answer. Hello, everyone. I wanted to ask if it's still worthwhile bringing this motion to the local councils. Thank you for the question. This is the problem I was looking at. There are two aspects I was asking myself about. Preparing the resources yesterday, considering the population of Assisi like I was at the beginning, we began to understand the possible impact of this motion. And when the nation itself began to understand the importance of this issue that was bubbling up from the people through their representatives, and it's something that belongs to people, something that people want. So certainly, I believe that work on the motion so basically what we wanted to do was half done. Why? Because as I said, the first motion after its approval in Rome, 20 other cities adhered, and I stopped recording how many there were. I think there were others. After that, what we wanted was the full application of law number 185, not to sell arms to nations at war with the violation of human rights. But we also wanted to apply the law to the reconversion from military factories to civil factories. We wanted the demilitarization of factories. So the Italian people understood that this movement that has been triggered in order to have a disactivation of contracts of sale of weapons towards zones that are at war, that we wanted to go towards thinking of an economy. We wanted to now, maybe after the coronavirus, it might set off in a less armed way. How do you manage to convince people in your local area? The first step, declaring oneself against war and for peace, is in the statute of the City of Peace movement. Then concretely, apart from words and what's written on paper, how do you go about it? You need to have your local treasury that's not financed by banks engaged in investing in weapons. You need to emphasize the fact that when putting out to tender the bank's funding, you must not be investing in weapons. So you are the peaceful values, and you ensure that this rule is applied. It's not true that peace is other people's problem. It belongs to all of us because you either have to be for or against. Every choice has within it this. We also, yes, I mean, you also have to battle against slot machines, against gambling. All of this calls for that needs to be disarmed because it's a violence towards the vulnerable in society. Thank you for the local and international commitment to the Focolare movement. And this is also thanks to the political movement for unity, which is working for dialogue at all levels and has accompanied and sustained right from the start. From seminars in Parliament, work with local administration. So that's why we've got Maria Bencivelli with us, who is a member of the International Centre of the Political Movement for Unity, Movement for Politics and Unity. What is the commitment of the Politics for Unity movement, their involvement in peace? Thank you for your question. I'll tell you about two recent events. One ongoing is the United World Week activity, the petition to stop the embargo in Syria, launched by New Humanity and the movement and the politics for unity movement. For those who don't know about it, it's an appeal to the United Nations and the European institutions in which we emphasize a particular question to take away the embargo on Syria for medical and health supplies. The sanctions are unacceptable, indeed almost cruel, because they deprive the population of vital help needed in Syria. Syria has been 10 years engaged in war, the hospitals have been bombed, and to face an emergency of this kind with a very weighty embargo sanctioned by the USA and Europe is terrible. So it's not true that the virus has made us all equal, but it's affected, it's the same virus, but it's affected people that are poor and with ongoing conflict. So now you get sick in an area where you get sick in a country where there's health service, two very different things. also are political ones. It's beyond parties. We want to save life. We want to save the Syrian people. So this objective is far above any kind of ideological stance. And it's a appeal that wants to go beyond and have every political positioning concerning the Syrian conflict. Because obviously the interests there are hugely complex. Certainly the Syrian people know for sure the Syrian people did not want the war. So it's an appeal that generated a lot of response around the world, including these. Professor Brody also spoke on a worldwide link up on the 2nd of May. David Sassoli, President of the European Parliament, he too supports the appeal, and he has said that there might actually be a political opportunity in which to give a positive answer to this appeal. We need to do a lot of work still, so please go to the Change.org website, platform, and sign Stop Embargo Syria. The other action was at the end of March. We heard Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary of the United Nations, launch a very important and radical initiative because he too appealed for a global ceasefire for wars during the time of coronavirus, and we too wanted to support this, and we wrote to commit and say that we want to be part of this, signed by the presidents of humanity in countries where we are more organized, and our reaction was spontaneous and immediate because we felt fully in agreement with the text of what Guterres said. If you want to go and find it on the UN site or on our website, and our own response was articulated too, and you can find that. So we said we believe in the use of war, that we like him, see that the world can no longer waste time in conflict, when said we should find solutions and challenges and work together for common good. And like him, we've taken our guiding for the fact that beyond diversity, humanity is one. And the pandemic has shown this, and that we're convinced that any challenge that humanity faces can be resolved, cannot be resolved without understanding this deep belonging on the part of each human family. In our work experience of this worldwide network built up for years, we've got concrete examples from all over the world that show us that this conviction is able to move minds and hearts of peoples and transform little and larger communities. So we can also believe that a global ceasefire isn't enough. But of course, but it's incredibly powerful if it would be considered, because it breaks down the escalation of death and violence and enables dialogue to be opened up. Certainly we need to get engaged in concrete action. We need determined and constant action if we want to guarantee success. We are in a very ambitious project in the world, which is peace. And so the work, that's what we wrote to Secretary General Guterres, that we want to make our contribution, especially new humanity. Our NGO collaborates in a consultative basis with ECOSOC and is an official partner with UNESCO and the Food and Agriculture Organization, and therefore has offices in New York, Geneva, Paris, and Nairobi, and we're working there too. So that's really what I wanted to say. Apart from the fields, we have to also find solution and action. It could seem that we're just living on appeals. We're not living solely on appeals. We are present in, we have centers in 5 continents, and we can assure you that there is a continuous communication among politicians, diplomats, public officials, active citizens, young people who are studying, young people in schools, young people getting formed in politics, studying politics. And so it's like a constant flow of projects, ideas, and experiences. So our action has as its essential values peace, and within that there's the urgency to disarm and to work for universal, a sense of a universal family. Now, at the moment, we feel obliged to think and act in an innovative way. Many people say that people need to rewrite the rules, that the imagination needs to be reinterpreted in a world that's already changed, therefore we want to make our contribution to a model of co-responsibility relationships and global decisions with an key idea that's very high, inspired by which is that of being position of having other people's going. This pushes us to propose a kind of standard among peoples because we all belong to one human family, and therefore a new political culture, thinking as culture and life and thought with an indivisible link. So we're doing this studying with the cultural agencies linked to the politics for unity movement, thinking, for example, of the university, the Sophia University Institute, and others. So we want to emphasize and highlight and to be the reality of the wonderful that exists, an instrument which can account for the hope that is in within it, and say that the world is not as it is now. But what direction can change occur in? Because we can go out of the crisis and make and find ourselves in a war emergency, or can we decisively take a direction for a more human world, a reconciled world, and a politics that knows how to take care of the earth on which we're living and the people living on that earth, starting from the least and the poorest, and those who need their voice to be heard. A few years ago, we had a virtual meeting with politicians, mayors, and public officials to look at what we're doing post COVID-19 or during COVID-19 phase 2. And we said, people are inspired by unity and fraternity. So in this period, we mustn't pull back. We all need this vision. Make yourselves available, use all your resources that can arise this kind of unity. So I'm here to express in the name of those people who identify with this politics for unity and the building of peace in the world that has to grow. certainly needs to grow, but we must bring this commitment together with everyone else. And we take on the responsibility, for all it is our responsibility to bring from this mission political proposal, new political process for a new world. Thank you very much. You've helped us understand what you're doing at the moment, and we will sustain you. We've reached the conclusion of our meeting, so thank you for all those who have spoken. And we'll finish with Maria's final appeal, which is to be the 21 to see and to be the kind we want to go ahead. We will go ahead with the Disarmata Economy Group, connected with the people that we spoke to today, and we thought truly that we can start from us, as we spoke from experiences being told today, but getting connected with one another. We invite you to follow us on social networks, and we invite you to follow us on our Facebook page, in particular, Disarmata Economia Disarmata, and especially we're promoting meetings looking in depth at some of the issues that we've mentioned today. So there will be meetings on F45, but also you'll see on our Facebook page what's been done up to now and all the information that we've told you about. So thank you again, and we'll leave you with the words of Pope Francis. All that we've said today in a very clear way to say stop to the hypocrisy of weapons. Thank you and goodbye. A short while ago, there was something beautiful, and the other thing was, can I say, the hypocrisy of armaments, countries, Christian countries, at least countries, European countries, together with this very wise for Europe, those countries that talk about peace, and they live on the arms trade. This is hypocrisy. It's called hypocrisy. This is a word from the gospel. Jesus said it very often in the 23rd chapter of Matthew's gospel. Put an end to hypocrisy. That one nation should have the courage to say, I can't talk about peace because I have to think about my economy. We earn so much through the weapons factory, but these are all things that don't help anybody without dirtying that, without speaking. Talk about human fraternity. Let's stop that building weapons and cooking. This is a very ugly thing. In a port, I don't remember which one, a ship came to the port from a country full of weapons, and the weapons were being put on a ship, go to Yemen. We know what was happening in Yemen, what is happening in Yemen. The workers in the port said no. They were fantastic, and the ship went home. That's one case, but it teaches us how things should go. Peace today is very weak, very, very weak. But don't be discouraged. Let's help. Let's help to disarm.